Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today, and good day to everyone wherever you are joining us from. I'm John Milne, and I'm based in Dubai, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this webinar today. Today's webinar is Australian University Accommodation and Student Life at King's College within the University of Queensland. And I'm delighted to have Andrew Eunson, who's the Deputy Chief Executive Officer at King's College within the University of Queensland, here to discuss what life is like for students on campus as part of the residential college experience. Andrew's with us for the next 40 minutes and can answer any questions that you might have relating to what life is like for a student at the University of Queensland and the accommodation experience. As a parent myself, one of the most important aspects of our children's educational experience is knowing that they're going to be safe, looked after, and have the environment within which they can flourish. And it's safe to say that Australian universities certainly provide that foundation and experience. And I'm very excited to hear what Andrew has to say about the current state of play. Just some housekeeping for you before we get going. You will be receiving a copy of this webinar this week, so don't worry about missing any slides or any information. And if you do have any questions, please pop them into the Q&A channel and we can answer these as we go along, or there'll be an opportunity at the very end to ask Andrew some very specific questions. So Andrew, without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to you. Nice to see you and thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, John. Pleasure to be here, and hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Um, well, I have the lucky job of running a university college based here in Queensland, and I'd love to say it's always sunny Queensland, but as I'm speaking, the noise outside of the rain is so loud that I can barely hear myself think. But Brisbane on a beautiful day is really quite lovely, and I thought I would share this image with you and talk just a little bit about what you see in front of you here, which is essentially the University of Queensland precinct. And in the background of this image is obviously the city of Brisbane, which many of you would know is quite topical at the moment with the 2032 Olympics coming up. There is a real buzz around Brisbane, and I often talk to our own students here at King's College. It's the people who are going through university now and potentially leaving school now and thinking about a tertiary career. They may be the people actually leading and running some substantial projects that are attached to the Olympic Games here in the region. So there's a good energy here in the water. This is actually King's College here that you can see, the only university college at UQ with a lovely aquatic centre, a swimming pool, which is very much a point of jealousy for the other colleges. But as we move down the street here, you see the next college next door, which is Emmanuel College, and then further down is Union College, and we just keep rolling down this road, and it's actually called College Road. And we have around about 6,500, 7,000 students who are members of 10 different independent colleges based here at the University of Queensland. These buildings back here are the university lecture halls and theatres that you can see with a number of the ovals of the university. These high-rise buildings over here are the university's non-college student residential accommodation. So I'll explain that. It is accommodation, self-catered accommodation, single dwellings or apartments designed for single students to live. But that is all they are. And they certainly serve a purpose for many people. Each one of those towers houses around about 1,000 students. And we found that typically a lot of the students coming out of the Asian markets, Japan, China, etc., really do love that style of accommodation, but it doesn't offer the holistic college experience, which will be a focus of my presentation today. Just down the bottom of the image there, you can see our rowing pontoon, and we in fact are one of the lucky colleges at UQ that have direct access into the river. Which makes us the only college in Australia with an active boat club and a boat club and pontoon access to a river in a residential facility in the entirety of Australia. So it does make us quite unique. And certainly a lot of people start their rowing journey at King's. And some come to King's looking to really excel on the international stage. And we provide all of those options for them. There's obviously a rich history of King's, and I think it's important to share this because it talks about the journey that we've all been on here. And King's is 114 years old. It opened its doors in 1912 and actually commenced at a different site than the one that I showed you just before at St. Lucia. It actually was at another suburb in Brisbane called Kangaroo Point. And it started as a college for theological students, so students looking to join the religious ministry. But in around about 1945, the foundation stone was laid at the St. Lucia campus, and the college transitioned from being a theological campus to being just a university college for men at the time, and more recently became a co-residential college for men and women. Why on-campus living? And I feel as though many listening to the webinar already know the benefits of on-campus living because otherwise you wouldn't be here. But I think it's an important thing to understand. And to John's introduction, you want to know that your children or your students within your school are coming to a place where they'll be known, where they won't just be a number. They're getting a good education. They're making friends. And probably most importantly, that they're happy, that they're actually enjoying their time and they're not on the phone every night talking about how horrible their life is going and how they want to come home. So I think this slide really encapsulates it for me. I only wrote this afternoon. You know, you come to a college because you want to be a part of a community. And I quite often say that a college, and particularly King's College, it's not a college that you would come to if all you want to do is go to university, eat, and sleep. That's not why students come to a college. Those types of students go to a university residential hall or a self-catered facility that doesn't have that wrap-up of a community like a college does. I think fundamentally you're here because of an academic journey, and the end goal of any academic journey is to move into a career of your dreams. And so that's obviously a massive component for us. We want you to be career ready, and right from the very first week that you're here, a student is being schooled in the art of networking and working a crowd and going to a society night and going to a Q&A panel and how do you work a crowd and move around the room and talk to people. And so our goal of our careers department here at King's is to have you recruited into the career of your dreams prior to you actually graduating from the university itself. And we achieve that quite a lot of the time. And obviously, number one, and I mentioned it before, particularly in that first year away, and that first experience of potentially being away from home, you want to be somewhere where you're being engaged and you want to be having fun. And I think that's an important thing that King's focuses on is that balance between becoming a young adult, being away from home, moving into an academic or continuing an academic journey from school into university, but making some lifelong friends and having some good times in a safe way along that journey. You know, these students here, I think, you know, encompass some of the daily life here at King's, whether it's hanging out on the terrace in the morning, having a coffee, working out the day, you know, sitting around in someone's room, having a chat, enjoying the pool, staying fit at the gym, or on the bottom right, actually having some fun. And that's actually a picture of our quadrangle for what's called King's Conclusion, an event that we hold every year. that brings in around about 1,000 students onto our quadrangle to listen to some music. And it's one of the markers for the end of year each year here at UQ. I talked about academic excellence, and certainly right from day one, we are guiding residents of Kings around their academic journey and getting into some really good habits really early on. Um, Here we have a couple of images to our left, some students obviously engaged in a tutorial in our academic and career space or our learning centre. Upper right, we've got Manon, one of our second year students engaging with our writing consultant. Again, part of our academic and career space. Brian, who's our Associate Director of Writing, actually sits down and engages with students around the feedback from their assessment, helping guide their academic writing, because the academic writing component, particularly from school into university, is a massive step. And so Brian is essentially here to help guide students. And on the bottom, you can see a collection of students who were engaged with our academic high achievement luncheon this year. So to receive an invitation to a King's academic high achievers luncheon, you can either achieve a GPA of 6.5 or above, or have moved your GPA 2 points, a significant move. And so we're looking to really reward students who not only are academically high achievers and hard workers, but those that are hard workers who are working their way towards academic high achievement and are achieving really well in themselves around how far they're moving themselves academically. A couple of the things that I spoke about, that one-on-one tutorial support. Our tutorial program here at King's is the talk of UQ, and the other heads of colleges at UQ often ring us to ask to have their students as a part of our program. But to that, all of the colleges here do have some kind of academic program that they're promoting to support students within their college. 130 tutorials each week with over 60 tutors who are working. We pretty much guarantee to put a tutorial on for every student, for every subject. And we try and anchor that around the idea of around about 4 hours per student per week of academic support, over and above what you're getting from the university itself. There's a number of workshops that we do, and we engage with the university specifically around flourishing at university, and obviously that personalised support in writing, towards writing your assessment, but also unpacking the feedback that you have from lecturers and tutors around your assessments once they've actually been handed back. The career side of our department is certainly very active as well. And again, a couple of photos here just to, I suppose, experience the culture of what this looks like. On our left, we actually have a student being paired with one of her mentors. So we engage a mentorship program every year where we put out to our network of old collegians and industry experts the opportunity to mentor somebody at King's. And we then obviously pair those mentors and mentees that are industry and faculty based, and they go through a 6-month mentorship program with that person. On the top right, you see an example of one of our society nights. So again, we've got a panel of industry experts, often whom have all gone through the college themselves at various times. It might be a High Court judge. It might be someone high up in government. It might be someone who's running an entrepreneurial business or, one of the big four banks. So we engage a panel, we invite the faculty members studying those courses, and we have an evening where we can share around mentorship ideas, career highlights, career lowlights. If you could do something different, what would you do? How do you really make it that first job or second job? So there's really quite a lot of coaching that happens through that environment. And another example down below of one of those panel ideas. So we always have an access to a fantastic old collegians network. Any organisation that's 114 years old has got some deep and rich connections, and they span every corner of the globe. And we've been able to link people together through that network and create significant opportunities for people, particularly around work experience, job opportunities, and internships, often only from the single factor that the commonality of two people coming together is that they both went to King's. And I think that's a real credit to our community and that extended reach and benefit to coming here. Obviously, well-being is at the heart of everything. And again, there's a rich set of activities here at King's, from um, playing sport, playing music, being involved in the arts, but also listening to the contemporary ideas and needs of the generation that's coming through. And there's a couple of great examples here again. Top left, that's actually the first day of semester 2, where we just invite the students to come together and mingle and welcome each other after what has been a 4 or 5 week holiday period. Down the bottom left, we've got some of our women who've been involved in a fundraiser and awareness around She Week, essentially a week designed for women at King's. And equally, on the right-hand side, our men engaged in a men's mental health week. And any of the males in the room will know there's nothing better than belting a few golf balls down the driving range for a bit of well-being support. And so there's lots and lots of activities like that that really do come together. And I love that photo from the top right, our men's rugby team, who this year again took out the F&K Cup, which they have held now undefeated for the last 17 years. So a real tradition around sports and rugby, and I'll come to that a little bit more on our next slide. I think one of the uniquenesses around the University of Queensland is that it really is unrivaled in its intercollegiate competition. And we call that the ICC, the intercollege competition or intercollegiate competition. And we compete against the other 9 colleges in sport, arts and culture, community, and obviously then be a part of social events with each other along the way as well. Again, I think there's nothing better than a few images to explain this. We have our female netball team, which is about to come to Dubai for the Dubai Sevens and compete in the Dubai Sevens. They are off the back of 2 straight years of being undefeated, our women's team, and our women's rugby team down the bottom left, who again will also come over to Dubai for the Dubai Sevens. An image of a movie night here in our quad one evening. Our students engaged in our one-act play, which King's College won this year in the ICC competition. And then young Forbes Murdoch in the bottom right, who is competing in a wonderful competition called Oratory. And I'm often asked by many of our students, what on earth is Oratory? So in case anyone is unaware, oratory is essentially a cross between public speaking and debating. You're essentially trying to convince an audience of an opinion, and you have about 30 seconds to know the topic, and then you have to convince us about the topic. So it is a lovely part of the college atmosphere and the college competition that we can really compete in so many different ways, but then come together again as one big community along the way. Our women again took out the very prestigious UQ Great Court Race this year. We've got our band and our choir all captured here, so a very vibrant cultural life at the college. There's about 15 or 16 sports that we play. If you name it, we probably play it in the ICC. And we have a rich tradition around a number of these sports and sports that cater for different types of athletes, from full contact rugby to badminton and table tennis and chess. There really is a fantastic array of activities that you can be involved in whilst being here. Community is a big aspect of what I think is the role of a college to assist its residents to understand. I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, we're not a place where you just come to eat, sleep, and go to uni. We're a place that gives of our time and does things together. And Kings has an extremely big footprint in the city of Brisbane around our volunteerism. And in fact, every single student of this college volunteers in some capacity, and some do it many, many, many times. And whether it be packing shipping containers to Papua New Guinea or helping out opening parks or being in charge of charity fun runs or picking up rubbish in the local community or actually caring for a massive bush care site that we have on the edge of our campus, we really do try and give back and allow students to better understand what service is, and then obviously in time, what service leadership is if they traverse to part of the leadership team in the student body here at King's. I think a major point of difference to King's is our elite sporting opportunities. And we have engaged 3 clubs at King's that do a significant amount both nationally but also internationally. And we have some fantastic alliances and partnerships with some fantastic sporting organisations to allow those people from Kings to really get a foot up, but also be recognised on that domestic and international scale. Here is a picture of Charlotte. Charlotte is the tall one just here. She's a first year student and managed to pick up a place at King's coming out of North Queensland, but is then, due to our partnership with the Wavell Kedron Cougars, the premier netball team here in Brisbane, all of our King's athletes are now on a pathway into the club and a pathway of recognition into the club for those elite pathways. So really now netball players do come to King's as a centre for excellence for netball and the partnerships that we have in the region to support elite athletes on their journey. With rugby, we have a very strong association with the UQ Rugby Club, and we do really, both organisations really do a lot together. Obviously, there are some photos here that may look very familiar to people in the room. We had a very successful campaign to the Dubai Sevens last year. Our women's had a fantastic time. Our women's team plagued with a little bit of injury, and our men's team made it all the way to the quarterfinals, having been undefeated to that point, even defeating the China national team in those quarterfinals and getting pipped for the semis. So a fantastic campaign, and we're obviously looking forward to some amazing results again this year when we head back with about 70 athletes for this year's event. And rowing, which has probably been one of the longest clubs around in the history of King's, again has a very, very rich tradition on the domestic stage and the international stage. Having won the Head of the River here in Brisbane now for its 19th year in a row, to be the only university college that consistently every second year heads over to the Henley Royal Regatta, in many instances automatically qualifying for that event, and being exposed to all the major clubs and universities in the area. And I'll come back in a second to why we do these international opportunities, and what it is actually a mechanism for. Some of you are probably thinking, what are the rooms like? So I thought I'd do a little bit of a fancy little trick here and try and do a bit of a look at these rooms. Hopefully that's moving itself around. This is one of the rooms, just a standard room in our Wensley building. The students love these spaces. Single beds, a little Juliet balcony, shutters on the outside. This room here is in the Williams building. Again, lots of private en-suites, shared en-suites in this room. Balconies out onto the river, double beds. Very, very comfortable apartment-style rooms. And this is an example of a slightly smaller room, but one of our rooms that's called a shared ensuite. So the ensuite is in between 2 bedrooms, and then you share with another person that bathroom arrangement in between. And more than happy in the Q&A, there may be some questions around the different types of living arrangements here at King's, and I'm more than happy to hone in a little bit more on that. Our dining hall is a lovely space, and I often encourage people to come and do a tour of a college because I think you do get a sense of the culture of the place when you walk into their dining hall. King's remains the only college in the country that doesn't force a student to pay and eat 3 meals a day. So we have a large set of meal plans available for students to choose because we understand that you're trying to balance maybe some work, maybe some tutorials, maybe a girlfriend or a boyfriend or catching up with family or academic work, etc. So you can dial up or dial down your meal plans depending upon your age or your what year you're in at King's, and then particularly also your living environment, what room you might have. These two plans here, I've just put these two up because as a first year, we do guide a first year student around either choosing 14 meals a week or 2 meals a day, as an example, or 21 meals a week, 3 meals a day. When you move into your second year and then obviously your third year, you can then also choose, if you wish, to dial that down to 7 meals or even 0 meals a week. And I think the significant benefit of that is that some start paying their own way. Their college experience, parents help out in the first year or two, and then students often are forking out maybe in their second or third or fourth year. So it does allow a student just to balance and have a little bit more flexibility in the financial aspects of being at a college, whilst also keeping touch with the community and almost preparing yourself in a way for moving out of college and having to actually cook for yourself at some stage of your life and be involved in that kind of thing. We've got a great cafe you can see as well in the morning that's open up every day, and a formal dinner setting set up in our dining hall below. I have a couple of final slides here, which really just is a bit of information for you, and I'll leave each slide on for a little while as I finalize some of the information to go through. So please feel free to scan a QR code if you'd like and save these away. On scholarships and bursaries, we give out a couple of $100,000 each year for bursaries and scholarships. I would encourage you to have a look at the website around that. And we give scholarships and bursaries to students when they enter college, when they decide to return for a second or third year. Excuse me. And we also, believe it or not, give you a scholarship to travel when you decide to leave college. So you present a case around what you'd like to do, and then we will financially support you to go and do that for 6 or 12 months overseas, linking into your study. Again, if you find yourself in the region, booking a tour of our college is very easy. Again, through our website, and there's a team of staff here that operate 5 days a week, and you can really pick a tour time that meets your schedule if you are in the region. We have a college prospectus, and a lot of the information that I've gone through tonight is in there. But again, feel free to scan that QR code and download that prospectus, which might be a great resource for you. And for the career counsellors in the room, reach out to me on email if you'd like me to send through a few hard copies of our prospectus. Applications to the college are quite easy. You can start the application on the website. For 2027 applicants, we essentially open the door up on the 1st of December. And I do try and advise people thinking of applying at a college, the window to really apply is early in the year. And I know for some, they haven't made their mind up and there's still a decision-making process. But I think the sweet spot is applying for a college somewhere between the 1st of December and the 1st of April, which then allows you to be looked at for a first round early offer into a college. And I know that can really assist students as they're in their final year, understanding that they may not have gotten into their university of choice yet, they're still waiting for that offer, but they've sort of worked out where they might be living if that does come through. And obviously, an early offer means that it is just conditional on receiving an offer to a university. And if that offer to the university didn't come through, then we obviously don't hold you to that offer, and you're free to go to a different university or a different college or something like that. And some key social media. Again, I often say to students, have you gone for a tour? No, I haven't. Well, at least have a look at our social media. All of our social media are run by the students of King's. So you are getting a really good idea of what student life is. And I would say, particularly across the Instagram and the TikTok accounts, you do get a really good idea of what the life of the college through the eyes of the students. Finally, I said before, the reason why we do so much internationally and we use sport as a mechanism for that is really to provide an opportunity in a region. So if I talk about Henley as an example, we go to Henley to row in one of the premier races in the world, but it really is about being at Oxford and understanding the postgraduate study options and the alliances that the University of Queensland, King's and Oxford have, and leveraging those. And indeed, 2 years ago, we had a student go over to Henley, and obviously something was sparked in that young man, and we're now supporting his Rhodes Scholarship application to Oxford for next year. Again, we go over to Hong Kong for the Hong Kong Tens, but it is about immersing in that financial, monetary aspect of that region and looking at what opportunities that might provide and linking in with old collegians in that area. We go to Dubai because it's a fantastic tournament, but it is about linking in construction, design and engineering, internships and work experience opportunities with some of the major players there in the UAE. So for some, particularly coming from the UAE, that might present a fantastic symmetry around coming back into the region professionally in a particular area, but actually leveraging the relationships that we forged in Australia to actually make that happen back in the UAE. So, John, I think I'll leave it there unless there's any further information, but really happy to pass it back over to you in terms of questions, and I'm more than happy to go into some greater detail on any topic.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew. That's been really insightful and really, really great examples there of what the students are experiencing and what they're getting up to. So I really appreciate that. Thank you for bringing it to life for all of us. It's truly a breathtaking campus. There's no doubt about it. And just as a header, the University of Queensland is ranked two in some amazing subjects. So for sports related subjects, I think in the QS rankings, it's ranked number two, six for engineering, petroleum engineering, 15 for agriculture and forestry, environmental sciences. So there's tremendous academic excellence going on at the university as well. I suppose from this part of the world in particular, Andrew, one of the worries, other than just being safe, is universities often are about being incredibly social in year one, and sometimes that association with alcohol is quite intimidating to students in terms of the attitude of the college and the university and just what's available to students other than the traditional route that a lot of students like to go down. What would you say to parents just to reassure them that actually there's a space for everyone?
Yeah, that's a great question, John. Certainly, I've seen a real transition, particularly in the time that I've been at King's. And that transition has happened significantly over the past 3 to 4 years, where there was probably in Australia a culture around, it's party in your first year, and then from second year onwards, we'll knuckle down and do some work. That's really shifted in my time here at King's naturally as well. Not because anyone's been pushing that in a particular way. I think the caliber of student coming out of school, the school sector now has really shifted, and they're really starting to sort of speak up and say, No, no, I'm independent. I'm happy to I'm happy to get a really good GPA and to lock in a little bit more in my first semester, or I'm happy to be a little bit social, but there's a balance here. And I think the college experience, certainly here at King's, is one where we promote balance, we promote individuality, we promote diversity, and certainly a range of activities that happen here. I mean, as I was walking across to this webinar tonight and I came up through the building, there was a group of students cooking pancakes, sitting around, just enjoying each other's company. And I think in what is a large college, but arguably a small group of people, you will find your people, and there's a lot of support mechanisms here in our residential leaders who essentially run our flats, to our associate deans who oversee the work of our residential leaders, to our student club executive, to our support staff, wellbeing staff, etc. Mechanisms that don't let students fall through the crack. And particularly with our international students, we do quite a lot. We link our international students together as a group as early as the first week. We have a large number of students from the UAE currently at King's, and actually we have students who represent 12 countries from around the world and 189 schools from around the world here at King's. So with those sorts of statistics, you are bringing different people together, and it does have a natural tendency to break down some of that big mass sort of fun party time that probably existed in the university college sector 20 years ago, when King's College and arguably the other colleges at UQ were predominantly from Queensland, country regional areas, and they've come from the country and they've come from the city, come to the city. So it's a very, very different place now, and a place where I think students understand the privilege to get a place, to be one of 1,500 students who've applied for 150 places, and to get one of those places, they understand it's a real privilege, and they don't want that privilege to disappear anytime soon.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Andrew. And just another question that's come in, and I'm sort of embellishing it a little bit, but just in terms of the students' well-being, year one is so important, and you've talked about the peer-to-peer support that exists. Could you just talk a little bit about maybe an example of an international student that's come in that perhaps hasn't settled as well as everyone would hope, but been flagged by a peer, and there's been some intervention, and actually they haven't looked back since?
Yeah, absolutely. One student comes to mind who came out of Singapore, I believe. She is an extremely worldly student. She came from an international setting, but when you look at her schooling life, she'd been around the world 3 times. So in essence, she was very accustomed, I suppose, to being in a new environment and making new friends very quickly, because she'd been doing it her whole life. But she was challenged a little bit when she first arrived, and she became known, I suppose, to our student residential leaders pretty quickly, around someone who was just struggling a little bit with the transition of whether it be the combination of the academic and social stresses, and then fitting in and being the new kid here, and that kind of thing. So um, there's so many ways in which our peer-to-peer and then our staff to student mechanisms actually work in the wellbeing space. There's so many ways in which that comes together. But just to explain a usual Monday for me, on a Monday at 9 a.m., myself and the Director of Wellbeing meet with our 4 associate deans. Now, our 4 associate deans are students. And so we're talking about the activities of the last week, the activities that are coming up. We're talking about their one-on-one chats that they've had with their 5 or 6 residential leaders, and then understanding how the 20 people in each of those individual flats are going. How's Charlie going? I heard he was struggling with an assignment over here. How's Rowena? I heard her uncle passed away last week. So there's deep discussion at 9 o'clock every Monday morning. Then at 10 o'clock, we come together with the entire residential leadership team, all 22 residential leaders. And again, we're talking about what's coming up, what are the activities that we're embedding in the life of the college to make people excited about being here? What are the new initiatives that are being thought up? What's the student voice in the college around the things that are happening around the college? Then obviously from a more serious point of view, we've got reporting mechanisms where you can do either informal or formal reporting to the college. Again, you've got an option to be anonymous or non-anonymous. You have all of these different ways in which an individual can speak up, share an idea about somebody else, themselves, talk about what's happening around the college to ultimately create an environment that has quite a lot of trust and quite a lot of transparency. And if I just have a very quick idea around that particular student that I was talking about, the student had a number of challenges around, they had a sick father in the UK, they were homesick, there was all sorts of things going on. And ultimately they decided to leave. And through the interventions of our student residential team, the student then rang me and said, "Oh my goodness, I can't leave this place. What this place has done over the last week to wrap me up." And she was really nervous at the time because she had thought I'd given her place away already. And she's still here. And I was chatting to her a couple of days ago, and she's absolutely thriving and loving the fact that she remained here. So there'll always be, I suppose, bumps along the road. It won't work out for everyone. But our goal, I suppose, as a college is to support that journey from either another place or from school into a new environment and make that a successful and flourishing time for you. And if it's not and it doesn't become, then we support you with whatever that next step is. And sometimes it's about realizing that and finding that yourself along the journey is part of growing up, I would say.
Great, thanks, Andrew. And just one final question, and I suppose this is your opportunity to sell Kings and sell UQ. It's very difficult as a parent, as you know, and as a student to properly understand the differences and maybe the benefits of the different offerings in Australia. But from your experience and the kinds of young people that you're producing at the end of their experiences and their degrees, what makes a UQ student and or a King's College student different in a positive way that you say is absolutely worth the investment of going to Brisbane?
I'll probably focus a bit more on Kings, and then a bit on UQ. I think Kings from day one, you are part of a very, very significant historical family. I touched on it before. I've been present in conversations where two people work out they've both attended this college, and the opportunities that have presented post that conversation are immense. But I think we're preparing people to be global citizens, and we're also preparing young people to understand that with every decision they make, there will be some mistakes along the way. And it's our job to support you and help guide you and educate you along the way as well. I famously say on move-in day when I present myself in the dining hall and talk to the parents who are dropping their children off, and mums are crying and all of that sort of thing. I say, listen, your son and daughter will probably make a mistake in their time here. There will probably be a conversation that's had at some point around something that's happened, but allow them the time to manage that themselves as a young adult and to deal with it, and let them grow as a person. Because I think sometimes if I was to compare our product with other colleges around the world, sometimes I think the world is moving at a pace where it doesn't allow you that time to really grow and develop yourself, the character of a young person. And that's something that I think King's does really, really well. It should be noted also, UQ have a significant network themselves right around the world. We had two of our alumni named in the UQ Alumni Awards last week, and in fact, one of our old collegians was named Alumnist of the Year. But there is a really rich alumni network at UQ, being a high performing university as well. And something that you might not be aware of is that we also open our doors to another large institution here, which is QUT, or the Queensland University of Technology. So around 20 of our residents here are from QUT. And so whilst we're on the land of the University of Queensland and we're affiliated with the University of Queensland, we do allow students from the Queensland University of Technology to actually attend King's College as well. And that's an important question, I think, when you are talking with colleges around who are they affiliated with, and actually, is it only one university or multiple universities that they may have an affiliation?
Thank you, Andrew. So it's been a fascinating skip through the life of a student at King's College. So thank you so much for that. And I think it's safe to say that what's coming out of this webinar for me is that King's is absolutely safe and a nurturing environment within which students flourish. Absolutely. I think that inclusivity as well comes roaring through with activities and support and opportunities for everyone. And whoever you are, you're going to find your tribe, aren't you? Which is, I think, one of those things that parents worry about is will they make friends and will they be happy? And absolutely, that's going to happen at King's College. So, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's late with you in the evening, and I know the weather's not as good as it is here in Dubai. So, apologies for that. But we really appreciate you giving up your time. If you're joining on this webinar and would like further information, either from Andrew or from myself, please do get in touch. I'll be sending a copy of the webinar to you with some contact details. Drew, do you want to just mention a little bit about your activities in the Middle East over the next month or so?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. As I said before, we're coming over for the Dubai Sevens and setting up some partnerships over in the UAE. But if anyone wants to reach out to me over email and would like an invitation to a social event that we're having, Kings is running an event on the 25th of November at the Els Club in Dubai. And if you'd like an invitation to come along and speak with me in person, whether it's to come along as a family, or even just to, if you're a careers counselor and you would like to come along and chat to some of the residents of Kings yourselves, or some of the old collegians who'll be there, just reach out to me over email and I'll make sure I get you on the invitation list for that.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. It's been my pleasure to host you, Andrew, and we look forward to seeing you in Dubai and hopefully in the future online again. But thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much, everyone, for joining. And we'll be in touch over the next few days. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Andrew. Nice to see you.